We're successfully getting an error response from our server, but one thing we can do in our catch block to make sure we actually give some feedback to our user is to set up some errors in our form. So what we're going to be doing is having an errors object, and this errors object is simply going to be displaying errors in our form. Once we get that error from our database, we could actually check the status of the error. Okay, so we could say if error.response, and actually for us to get the underlying response in the Axios error, we need to get error.response, and we can get the status, and we can say if the status is 422, it actually means this user did not provide us with the correct login details, and we're simply going to push to the errors object this.errors.push, and we have a message like we couldn't verify your account details. Okay, so that's good enough. Now for us to do this, let's just instantiate this to an array. Okay, then once we push to that errors array, automatically let's make sure we actually displayed in our template. But if this is a 422, it means everything went well on our side, but the user's credentials were not correct. But we can actually check if it was not a 422, maybe it's a 500, then we could actually push to the error and saying something went wrong, please refresh and try again. Okay, so that's what we have. Let's take care of that in our template. So right after we have our form, let's set up a div.alert danger, and this is simply going to be displayed if, so we're using our if conditional right here, errors.length greater than 0. So if the errors array actually has more than one element, then we're going to display this error block. And preferably, we might actually want list to display the errors. So on added list, and then we can actually add a class of list group here. And inside that on added list, we can have list group items. Then we wrap this in a v4 error in errors and simply echo out error. Now we have this error saying that it would be preferable for us to bind to a key, which we might not really need to do, but just to shut out these errors, let's just go ahead and bind this to a key and say errors.index of error. Okay, so that's just to make Vue.js shut up. So now for each error that we have in our errors array, we are simply going to actually output this. Okay, so another thing we want to do is make sure that if the user still clicks on the attempt login button, we'll simply set this.errors to be equal to an empty array again. And I think that should do it for our validation. Let's go ahead and try this out. Open up our login modal and paste in our email, put in a wrong password, try to log in, and sure enough, we have that error right there, even though it looks really bad, but then we have it, right? So now let's make a little change, try to log in again. Sure enough, the error goes away before coming back all over again. Right, so looks like our authentication is working. I'm gonna take care of this really bad formatting behind the scenes, but I think our Ajax authentication works perfectly.